ground!
Wait, hold on,
Get
you
on your
hit me!
face!
I never even saw you, officer. I would have stopped.
Arms out!
If you're saying I fled, that's bullshit. I couldn't hear.
Tried to pull you over, and you fled.
Ooh, what's this? It's not a weapon.
It's a lot of cash you got on you.
It's not illegal.
Drug currency is illegal.
The movie begins with Terry Richmond, a former Marine, cycling down the road while listening to music through his headphones. Suddenly he is stopped and detained by officers Evan Marston and Steve Lawn, who claim Terry fled when they attempted to pull him over. Terry explains he didn't hear their commands due to his earphones, but the officers proceed with questioning him and investigating his belongings. Officer Evan searches Terry's backpack and discovers a package. When Evan asks to open it, Terry refuses, leading the officers to detain him and call for a K-9 unit. Evan informs Terry it will take an hour for the unit to arrive, prompting Terry to reluctantly permit them to search the package. Inside, the officers find a large amount of cash, almost $30,000. They suspect the money is tied to illegal activities, but Terry insists it's legitimate. He explains that $10,000 is for his cousin Mike's bail at the courthouse, while the remaining amount is to buy a truck for hauling boats. Terry elaborates that Mike was jailed for possessing weed but was not dealing drugs. Despite his explanations, the officers decide to confiscate the money, claiming they suspect it is drug-related. Evan advises Terry to file the necessary paperwork within 30 days to reclaim the money or face charges of money laundering. Frustrated, Terry complies and is released. Determined to bail out his cousin, Terry rides to the courthouse where he meets Elliot, a court clerk. Terry explains the situation, but Elliot refuses to help since Terry lacks the necessary funds. Elliot also reveals that the jail is undergoing renovations and prisoners, including Mike, are being transferred to state prison. Realizing the urgency, Terry grows desperate, but Elliot introduces him to Summer McBride, another court clerk and aspiring lawyer, who agrees to help. Over some drinks, Summer informs Terry about a local police department's practice of legally confiscating cash and keeping it when citizens fail to reclaim it. Terry then reveals that Mike is in danger because he helped authorities apprehend dangerous criminals and might be targeted if transferred to state prison. Mike's transfer is scheduled for Thursday, so Summer advises Terry to quickly secure money for the bail. Terry contacts Mr. Liu, his business partner and the owner of a Chinese restaurant, who agrees to provide the $10,000. Meanwhile, Terry identifies the police department where Evan and Steve work and visits them the next day. He reports a robbery, describing the robbers as Evan and Steve. Officer Jessica Sims begins filing the report, but Steve intervenes, accusing Terry of fabricating the story. Soon, Chief Sandy Burns steps in defending his officers and ordering Terry to leave. However, Terry offers a deal. The department can keep most of the confiscated money if they return enough to cover Mike's bail. Tempted, Sandy agrees and allows Terry to visit Mike before the transfer, instructing him to arrive at 9 a.m. on Thursday. On the set date, Terry arrives at the police department only to discover that the prisoner transport bus has already departed, thanks to Chief Sandy deliberately rescheduling it earlier. Determined to warn his cousin Mike, Terry quickly chases down the bus on his bike and shouts for Mike to request protective custody as soon as he reaches the prison. Frustrated, Terry seeks help from Summer, who meets him privately and shares significant information. She reveals incriminating details about the corrupt officers and mentions that even the courthouse judge is involved. Summer insists they can expose the corruption. As for Mike's bail, she advises Terry to bring the money to Elliot's desk as soon as possible to expedite the process. Terry heads back to the police department and confronts Chief Sandy, threatening him to comply with their deal. Officer Steve intervenes, leading to a heated altercation. Terry manages to disarm both Sandy and Steve, cuffs them using Officer Jessica Sims' handcuffs, and forces her to escort him to the property room. There, Terry discovers a stash of weapons and large sums of confiscated money. Honoring his initial agreement, he takes only $10,000 for Mike's bail and leaves the rest. Before leaving, he unloads Jessica's firearm and instructs her to pretend to arrest him and drive him out of the building to avoid raising suspicion. Jessica reluctantly complies, dropping him off at a secure location before issuing a police alert about Terry. Terry then rushes to the courthouse and delivers the bail money to Elliot. Meanwhile, Summer goes to secure the judge's signature for Mike's release. However, before the process is completed, the police arrive and forcefully arrest Terry. He is taken to the courthouse catacombs for a medical checkup, where officers Evan and Steve escort him to Chief Sandy. During the drive, Sandy lays out the situation. He agreed that meddling with Terry was a mistake after they dug into his background. Soon they reach a hospital and Sandy returns Terry's remaining money, proposing a deal. Terry must stay quiet about everything or face up to 30 years in prison for assaulting the officers. Sandy also reveals that Mike was attacked in prison and is being transferred to this hospital. Terry, emotional and enraged, reluctantly accepts the deal. He visits Mike's hospital room but is devastated to find that Mike has succumbed to his injuries. With no fight left in him, Terry asks Summer for a ride back to his town. On the way, they are tailed by a cop, whom Summer reveals to be her contact, a friend looking out for her. Summer tries to convince Terry to help expose the corruption, citing similar cases to Mike's, but Terry, frustrated, brushes her off. He gives her his number for emergencies before parting ways. Later that night, Summer wakes up to find someone has entered her home and drugged her. She realizes the police are involved when she notices a car magnet with their logo on her refrigerator. Panicked, she calls Terry, who immediately rushes over. He finds her alive but shaken in the shower. Summer reveals that the drug they used was something she had been prescribed in the past, a detail that could jeopardize her custody of her daughter if tested. Terry reassures her and takes her to work the next day. There, the judge demands Summer undergo a drug test, further proving his collusion with the corrupt officers. Terrified, Summer complies, knowing her fate is sealed. Meanwhile, Terry encounters Officer Steve once more, who, along with his colleagues, blocks the street to trap him. Although Terry initially cooperates, Steve shoots him. Injured but determined, Terry retaliates by tasing Steve and fleeing to safety. He abandons his vehicle, makes his way to the Chinese restaurant owned by Mr. Liu. He contacts Summer, who arrives and finds him wounded. However, Mr. Liu helps patch him up. There, together, they devise a plan to uncover the evidence needed to expose the corrupt officers. Terry and Summer break into the judge's house and confront him. Under pressure, the judge admits his role in the corruption. He reveals that the police department, strapped for funds, was illegally confiscating money during traffic stops, then processing it through the court system. The scheme was protected by legal loopholes, ensuring defendants rarely reclaimed their money. Part of the funds went to government programs, while the rest was pocketed by the cops and the judge. Importantly, the judge reveals that the officers' dashcam footage contains recordings of their unlawful activities. Determined to retrieve this evidence, Terry and Summer break into the courthouse, only to discover that the cops are ahead of them. The officers set a fire in the evidence room to destroy the footage, but Summer manages to stop it long enough to recover the memory cards. To maintain their cover, they reignite the fire and flee. Terry waits outside in the car while Summer attempts to retrieve her urine sample. However, she is caught by the officers. Watching from a distance, Terry sees the cops kidnapping Summer, setting the stage for the next confrontation. Terry then tracks the cops to a secluded location where they split up, leaving one officer behind. Seizing the opportunity, Terry rams the cop's car, subdue him, and handcuff him for interrogation. Using the cop's radio, Terry contacts Chief Sandy, who proposes a trade, Summer in exchange for the memory cards. Terry agrees, and Sandy instructs him to meet at Rebel Ridge by dawn. However, when morning comes, Terry doesn't show up. Frustrated, Sandy receives another call from Terry just as Officer Evan claims to have located Terry's vehicle. Upon investigation, Evan discovers that Terry isn't in the car. It's Officer McGill, taped to the vehicle as a diversion. Meanwhile, Terry infiltrates the police department, breaking through a back wall to access Sandy's headquarters. Officer Jessica spots Terry and alerts the others, prompting them to return to the station. Greedy Sandy rushes to secure the confiscated money, but Terry arms himself from the department's armory. He shoots Sandy with beanbag rounds, incapacitating but not killing him. Jessica arrives and Terry, realizing she's the trustworthy ally Summer mentioned, cooperates. He entrusts her with the memory cards, urging her to release the evidence. While Jessica agrees to help, Sandy's men surround the station. As Terry prepares to destroy the money by dousing it in gasoline, Jessica intervenes, unwilling to escalate the violence. She leads Terry outside, where Officer Steve confronts him and smashes the memory cards. Steve boasts about knocking out Summer, leaving no witnesses to protect Terry. Just as the officers prepare to kill him, Evan steps in, questioning their actions. A standoff ensues, but Sandy shoots Evan in the leg and seizes his weapon. Terry notices Jessica hesitating and takes the chance to escape with Evan. Using smoke grenades, Terry shields their retreat and activates the police car's dash cams, ensuring live recordings after 3 minutes. Methodically, Terry incapacitates the officers without lethal force. Confronting Steve, he avenges being shot earlier before finding Summer unconscious in Steve's car. Having activated the dash cams, Terry drives toward Evan, rescuing him and escaping the station. Steve clings to the car in pursuit, but is pushed off by Summer. Sandy and his men give chase, with Jessica crashing her car into Sandy's vehicle to let Terry escape. Terry drives to the hospital, where Summer and Evan are admitted to the emergency ward. He retrieves the dashcam's storage drive, preserving the evidence against Sandy. The film ends with Terry holding the storage drive dearly as it will serve as the key to exposing the corrupt system.